Hello, so we are looking at the Earth, Moon and Shadow Oracle by Serafina Yeshe Mesa, artwork by Kat L. Amsel. This is a 48 card deck, so this deck does focus on shadow work. So you've got the box, these are the cards, so these are the backs of the cards, which I think are very, very pretty. It's gorgeous. The cardstock is very thick. And satin finish. Before I look at the cards, I'll just show you the guidebook again. So this is the guidebook. It's bigger than the rest of it. It is glossy pages. So they talk about trigger warnings because, like I said, this is a deck that works with your shadow. So then they also talk about shadow work, which I think is fantastic. How to work with this deck, cleansing and guiding. And then they talk about the trigger and transformation cards. So there's a few spreads in here, and then you've got the cards. So you've got the title of the cards, 3 keywords, a quote, which I think is lovely, sort of about the card and the imagery. There's a lot of like historical facts in here, which I think is really cool. And they've got their references listed down below. And then this is more sort of the bit that's about what you can do, like the action of how this card can help you, how to use the card to help yourself. So that is the guidebook. They've got a glossary at the back, which is nice. Comments about witchcraft, the author and the illustrator. So that is that. So this card, this deck also comes with spreads on the cards, so you don't have to look into the book. Some of the spreads worked great. There's the authenticity. I felt some of them, the way the question was phrased, sort of made it hard to make the card applicable. That was just my personal experience with some of the spread questions. Now, let's have a look at the cards, and while I look at them, I will show you what decks I paired it with. So on the card itself, you'll have the keyword and the 3 keywords underneath. And then I paired it with the Obsidian Oracle, which is one of my all-time favorites ever. Love this to bits and pieces. And I paired it with the Dreamy Moons Tarot. So I just felt like I wanted more shadowy sort of decks, even though this one has more of a starlight energy to it. I thought the aesthetic worked really well. So with this deck, let's talk about the artwork. The artwork I absolutely really like. I actually really like the artwork. There are cards I love more than others, but overall, I really do enjoy looking at the cards. I think it's very pretty. The whole deck has quite a symbiotic nature to it in terms of all the artwork, and that was amazing. The actual titles and the keywords are really cool, so that was really interesting. It was something different that I've not normally worked with before. Now, as I said, this deck is mostly used for shadow work, and so for me, I feel like it's not a deck that I would keep in the long term. I feel like I would work with it and through it, and then I would eventually come to a time when I felt like, okay, I think our time together is done and the work is done and it's time to move on. This is probably my favorite card in the deck. I just love the imagery, and I love the nest with spiritual hearth, comfort and well-being. I thought that was absolutely gorgeous, and that's my favorite card. I definitely love that one. So yeah, I don't think I'm going to keep this in the long term. I think this is more of a short-term deck for me, but I think it is really well done. It's excellent quality. Look, the cards are a little thick for me. I find it a bit hard to shuffle and hard for like a card to jump in this particular deck. We could easily just do the fan kind of spread, and I think that would be absolutely fine. It did hit most of the time, but sometimes I just wasn't quite sure really what it meant. So I did have to use these cards to clarify. I felt like a lot of the time I did have to use clarifiers so I could understand sort of the nuance of the message, or like which perspective to look at it with, or what it was actually pertaining to. So it connected enough that I still used it, but it wasn't the most clear for me. I did have to sort of clarify the messages. In terms of how these decks work together, I thought they worked really well. I think the balance of the darker decks on the side actually help to like keep this more in focus for me. And I think that the color palettes are quite complementary. So what I'll do is I will read from the guidebook so you can see how it reads while I continue to flip through. So we have the Pathfinder. So the guidebook is in alphabetical order, but the is considered a T. So sometimes people don't include the, this one does. So we have intelligence, keen insight, and premonition. The best vision is insight. This incredible insight and intelligence that ravens possess make them amazing navigators and guides. In many Native American cultures, as ravens helped wolves and coyotes to find food, they also helped Native American hunters to find prey. For this reason, the raven was often regarded as a wise and all-knowing pathfinder. This innate wisdom and cleverness possessed by these mystical birds has been well established in both fact and folklore. One of the Tibetan Buddhist great protectors of wisdom is the raven-headed Mahakala. A recent groundbreaking scientific study even showed that ravens are capable of abstract thinking, of the kind that was previously assumed to be possessed only by humans and possibly chimpanzees. When the Pathfinder is revealed in a reading, it is showing us that, like the raven, we carry our own divine wisdom and have the innate ability to navigate any path. With our raven eyes, we can draw upon the keen insight we have obtained through the knowledge and understanding of our life experiences. Every painful trauma, every karmic lesson, and every wound has deepened our wisdom. We often want to distance ourselves from the hard-earned lessons and experiences of our past. However, when we bury our history and hide from those experiences, we also disconnect ourselves from the rich wisdom that lies within. For whom can better recognize thievery than a thief? Who is better qualified to identify inappropriate behavior and grooming than the survivor of abuse? Who has a stronger ability to recognize bullshit than a bullshitter? Releasing the binds of trauma while keeping the wisdom is a technique we must learn to master our shadow work. So like I said, it is very well written. For me, I don't think I could use this as a divinatory deck. I think it's quite focused on its subject matter, to be honest. I'm not sure how much versatility it has in general, other than for shadow work and healing. So I guess you could try. I actually haven't tried really using it as a divinatory tool. Sometimes I did just say, what is your message for me today? And that was okay. So like I said, I do like this deck. It's just not one that I could see myself keeping indefinitely. I have sort of other decks that I can use for shadow work, but that I can also use for daily pulls and other spreads quite well. So I tend to prefer having versatile decks rather than decks that are just sort of used for the one thing. But for now, I am definitely using it, and especially with my healing process from my breakup, I have found it's come at a great time for me. And like I said, I think the imagery is gorgeous and it is stunning, and I look forward to, however long I do spend with it. But yeah, that was the Earth, the Moon, and Shadow Oracle. I hope that wherever you are having a beautiful morning, afternoon, or evening. And as always, stay wild, Star Child.